Demonic toys, cursed items. Hi everyone, it's Maria Momela. Thank you for joining me. While on the supernatural, I decided let me just dish it all out and get it out of the way, okay? I've got two experiences to share with you. The first experience I want to share is with a doll. Growing up, I was um it's it's a blessing, okay? I was blessed to have just loving parents who would just get us toys. And I've owned several good dolls, like good dolls. Like for me, a good doll is a doll that's got hair, good hair to work with. So I had an opportunity of having like good dolls, okay, and a few of them that cried, that spoke, all right. So now, when I had my daughter, I wanted her to have the same experience as I did. Okay, so it was always my desire to get these, these real dolls. There's these dogs, it's a real doll, okay, these dolls that look like a baby, like they're very close to a baby. I wanted that doll for my daughter, okay? So now I remember I went and I was surprised to see at the cost, like here in SA, like that doll was like expensive. Like like I was like, what? For a doll? Like, are you joking? Like, this is not a collection. Like, she's gonna be playing with this thing. And for all you know, it's only a matter of time before the hand is out. Like, are you joking right now? But there was just that thing in my heart, like, I grew up getting dolls. Like, I didn't really buy my daughter a lot of dolls growing up. She was not into dolls that much. So I thought, let me just, now that she's grown, she'll appreciate like a good doll. Like I said, to me, a good doll is a doll with lots of hair. She could do a lot with it. Okay. And a doll that had clothes, beautiful, stylish clothes, so that she could change the doll. Okay. And the doll is like big enough. It's, yeah. So I walked around the store, I looked at the different dolls, and I'm like, well, I'm going to save up and then bring her. And then I decided, well, let me surprise her. I took her to the store and I said, I'm going to get you a doll today. She said, okay. After looking at the other toys, it was time for her to go pick the doll. And as actually, even as you were around the store, she kept on showing me different dolls. I said, no, I'm going to show you the kind of doll you can pick from. Just choose other toys. When we were done with the this miscellaneous aisle of different toys, we went to the doll aisle and I said, do you see this aisle? You can pick any toy. And she looked at me like her eyes were like, the look on her face was priceless. She's like, Mama, I can choose any doll here. And I said, you can choose anyone you like. Oh my gosh. I think she took the whole 20 to 30 minutes just looking at different dolls. And I'm like, girl, take your time. Choose your baby. And then she chose one doll. And I looked at the doll. I'm like, well, if this is the doll you like, then this is the one. This is the best one for you. We went home. I was in good spirits. She's never been the kind of a child to be like nursing around a doll and stuff, but this one she nursed. This one she took care of her to change different hairstyles until it started to bother me. Me again. Yeah. I've never had a problem with dolls, but now this doll is not the baby one that looks like the baby. Now this one that I'm talking about, it the skin looks like that of a baby. It looks like a human skin. Like, it's a good doll. Like the quality, like, yeesh, like that, like for a skin, what kind of a plastic is that? Like, that's good. And the hair and the clothes, okay. So I remember I started to be bothered by the doll. Like, she would play with the doll and leave it on the couch. And I was like, why is she leaving the doll here? That's how it started. And over time, I'd be like, why is she bringing this thing here? Why must we travel with this thing? Tell me she's not bringing the doll along. And she would leave the doll. So that's how you know you're starting to have a problem with something. I would take the doll and flip it and let it face downwards. That's my problem with the doll. Okay. All of a sudden, I just had a problem with the doll, and it was just building over time. And then I remember one day the dad had to go to another province. And I said to her, well, you can come to my to you can come to my room and for a sleepover. And she was happy. And I think I was praying in my heart, like, Lord, she must not bring the doll. She must not bring the doll. You're not gonna believe what this girl did. She came with the doll. She came with the doll. So there she was. She came in with the doll, and I'm like, okay, girl, be strong. And I just decided to, like, let me just let it go. Guys, we went to bed. I'm telling you, this has never happened before. Like, at night, like, we were all asleep, and just, I was like deep in my sleep. But like, as a mother, even just as a parent, at night, you can't just sleep like a log. There are noises, like, naturally you are aware of noises, okay? More so when my husband wasn't there, my ex-husband, okay, my husband at the time. So now I heard a voice speaking, like, not hello, not I love you, mama. No, the thing was talking. And it was talking with a small voice, like a tiny voice, like, oh my word, like, oh my word. But it was speaking very low, and I couldn't hear a thing it was saying. Like, what in the world? Like, what in the world? And the thing is, my daughter was sleeping inside a sleeping bag, okay? And she was just sleeping just not too far from my dressing table. So she wasn't not like she was not like that close. But that was very disturbing. And the first thing that came to mind was, I'm gonna take that thing and rip it to pieces. But it was so dark. It was at night. And I'm like, let me be wise. We can always do this in the morning. Yeah, yeah. Any of you have ever watched The Bride of Chucky? So yeah, my mind was just yeah. I was just getting ideas, okay, and I'm like, mm-mm. Let us relax, okay. Let us relax. Let us relax. We can do this in the morning, okay. The grace of the Lord is enough. So in the morning, I asked my daughter if she heard anything at night, and she said no, she didn't hear anything. And I was like, okay. And since then, it was my mission to keep my eye on the door. And I started to see less and less of it, actually, and which I was happy about. But the thing is, I was trying to find it and I couldn't even find it. I'd go into her room, I wouldn't find the doll. Like, where on earth is the doll? Did she borrow it to a friend? Like, where's the doll? And I couldn't find the doll. Okay, I just knew I had to get rid of the doll, and I did not like the idea of her even taking the doll to another home. I wanted to get rid of the doll. I wanted to get rid of the doll. And then I realized one day I just walked in her room, and there she was just playing. I realized how much she loved the doll. It was just so hard for me to take it, because my plan was just to steal it away, okay, to just take it without her knowing and just destroy it. How do I explain such a thing? Okay. I don't want to alarm her. The next thing, she's sorry about that. Oops, sorry about that. The next thing, she would be afraid of her teddy bears. Like, honestly, I, I was not gonna do that. So what did I do? I waited for an opportunity. Okay, so I didn't have an opportunity, guys, up until I actually finally moved. It was when I moved that I finally had the doll to myself. And I remember I looked at the doll. It was like I held the doll. It was like surreal. I couldn't believe it as I looked at the doll, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I left the doll down. I went to get me some newspapers, some matches, and then some plastic. And then I took it. As I went out to burn it, I was just covering it, wrapping it up, and then I burnt it. Guys, like, the relief I felt. The relief I felt. And the funny thing is, she didn't even realize it until months later. And she's like, I still don't have my doll. And I'm like, baby, I burnt that doll. She's like, why would you do such a thing? Do you know how expensive that doll is? Do you know what a beautiful doll? I mean, she was going on and on. I'm like, girl, that doll could talk. And she's like, what? And I said, that doll could talk. A doll is not supposed to talk like that. A doll is not supposed to talk like that. And she's like, Mom, this doll doesn't talk. I'm like, this doll doesn't talk. My daughter's like, Mama, this doll doesn't talk at all. The doll doesn't talk at all. And then come to think of it, then I realized that no, but this doll really doesn't talk. I have gotten her like these other dolls that would just cry, But and I remembered like it's true, like this doll doesn't talk. But that night that doll spoke. So it's just like, well, if it really does talk, then it's a good thing you got rid of it because like I'm not up for it. So since then I've not been big on dolls like at all, at all, at all. So even with the little one, the dolls and the toys that she has, a lot of them is the dad that buys them. And of course, I will look at them, pray over them and just look at them and see if there's any feelings that I feel towards it. All right. Yeah, I said I wanted to share two experiences. The first experience is the doll one. Now, this experience happened when I was young. Now, this is about the cursed item. Now, growing up, oh, well, let me try to protect the identity of the person. Okay, there was this family member. Now, this family member, he's just a happy, jolly fellow, a really nice guy. Okay, so now he was older than us. Okay, a very close member of the family, but his room. Well, he always left the door of his room open. And so one day we went, and he always told us that we shouldn't go into his room. And then he left. So on that particular day, he would always leave it open, but when he left, he would close it. But for whatever reason, I think he forgot to close the door. So one day I just came in and I realized my cousins were inside the room. But because I've always wanted to get into the room, I ran in so that I could explore. I wasn't going in there to tell them what they did was wrong. I had to explore. Was they explore looking at everything that he has, like, okay, what doesn't he want us to be in this room, looking at things, looking around. And then my cousin started to jump on his bed and everything, and then there was just nothing. Like, I'm like, so why doesn't he want us here? Like, he doesn't even have anything to break, you know but then I understood like it's his room, he wants his privacy. Then I also started to jump on the bed. Okay. And as we're jumping on the bed, now as we're jumping on the bed, I realized that there was a page that was posted on the wall. It's like a page from a magazine. That's how it looked like. But it was not a page from a magazine. Now I understand. It's like, the Jehovah Witness books, those kind of books. This is not a page from a Jehovah Witness book, but it was drawn and it looked like that. My problem was it drew a picture. Okay, and at that time I had never seen a picture with the goat and with the thing that had the fingers on, and there was like a fork thing, and I'm like, this is the devil. I'm like, this is a devil. And there was horns and all of that. And I've always loved reading since I was a child. So what do you know? Curious old me. I started to read, and as I read that thing, at that time I didn't know yet what is an altar call. Growing up, it was at 10 years old that I understood what is an altar call. An altar call means at church when they say an altar call is when they call people to the front, or they call people who want to pray to accept the Lord in their hearts. Like the altar call, they'll say, Lord, I accept you in my heart. I repent of all my sins. Wash me with your blood. Forgive me of all my sins. Write me on the book of life. Blah, 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 blah. That prayer. The salvation prayer. Yeah, that's the altar call. So now I was looking at this book and I started at this page that was pasted just on the wall, just close to the bed. And I began to read. This was an article, but this was an article. You see, oh my gosh, it is so true that the enemy mimics everything of God. The same way as there is a salvation prayer. And I know that there is no salvation prayer in the Bible. Okay, that's another thing. But anyhow, we have to, just like the Bible says, we have to speak with our mouth and believe in our hearts that Christ died. Okay. So even the enemy copies that. How original. So now, as I was reading through that, it was an article, but this time, like it was a prayer in which you accepted the devil in your heart, the demons in your life to guide you and stuff like that. And I stood there like, what in the world? Why would you want the devil in your heart. Why would you want Satan? In fact, they were using the name Satan. And I was reading it and reading it. I'm like, this guy is evil. And I was reading it. But then as I'm reading it, I was not even aware. I was not even aware that I was the only one now left in the room. And then I just kept on reading it. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I read it and I read it. And I finished it. And I'm like, what in the world? And I realized that everybody was gone. I remember sitting there thinking, like, who does that? Like, who, why would you want to put such a poster up? And I looked up again and I began to read it again. But the second time, when I began to read it, I started to feel, I started to feel like what I would call, like how I sense to this day an entity when it enters the room. The first thing I felt was fear. I just felt fear, like literally fear from absolutely nowhere. And I just knew like I'm in danger. I just felt that thing like I'm in danger, like I need to just get out, I need to run away. And by then, I didn't know to use the name Jesus because the Bible says the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and they are saved. And when you're in danger, that's the only thing that you have to say at some point, like Jesus. Sometimes that's the only thing that can come out of your mouth. And your girl didn't know that. I felt this fear and I started to feel paralyzed. And I remember looking up at that thing and I'm like, I think this has to do. And I'm like, there's something off about this room. And I started to look around like something off about this room. And funny enough, as I stood there, frozen on top of the bed, all I had to do was just to jump off and run. And I couldn't bring myself to that. I remember being stuck for a few seconds. It's through the grace of God that I was able to jump out of that bed and I ran off. I ran off like crazy. And as I found my cousins, I didn't know how to explain what had happened. And I remember that we needed to go back because I needed my shoes. So I needed someone to go back in there. And they waiting there. And I remember I started to feel this different aura. And since then, that room felt different. And every time that room was open, I would just look in and I would just feel a different aura. And I remember, since we were there for the holidays, it was soon time for us to go back home. And I just wanted to go into that room just one more time. That's the kind of a child I've always been. I've always gotten myself into dangerous situations. Like, yeah, I was a little rebel, so I guess now I'm a rebel for Christ. The stubbornness that that I had, like God has just turned it into be like resilience for God. Okay, so I walked into the room one more time with my cousins and I started to look around and I asked them, do you feel anything? And they said, no, I felt this aura. There was just something off about that room. And that's when I realized that this feeling has always been there, but I just never felt it so strongly. And it was then that I walked out. And I never looked at him the same again for a long time. Okay, it was only after I've grown that I saw him and I didn't look at him with that eye like, what are you doing with the devil things? You know, I had grown and I don't know, perhaps he's repented or not. All I know is I've always known him to be a good guy. I've always loved him. I've always loved this family member. Okay. Yeah. So that's it, guys. That's what I wanted to share. God bless.